trip to the Outer Banks and Kitty Hawk would be complete if you didn't stop at the Wright Brothers Memorial. It's been made into a national park. What do they call it? A site of interest or a site of distinction or something?
National Historic Site?
National Historic Site.
National Memorial. I see it on the sign now.
Right now they're doing some work on building a brand new visitor center. So they have just a temporary visitor center set up, and most of the things that you can go and look at are outside. So we're gonna check it out. I think you can actually go and see where they did the original flight, how far they went, and they have markers and stuff for that. So that'd be cool to check out. Okay, we're up at the memorial. They have a big plaque up on top of the hill. This is the hill that they did their Guardian flights from, and I think they also flew their propelled airplane from the top of this hill. It used to be a sand dune, but now they've covered it with grass so it doesn't erode away. I think it's kind of mind-boggling to think about that they were testing these airplanes out like 110 years ago, 115. It was at the beginning of the 1900s. And in that amount of time, 115 years later, we are now flying to other planets and putting people on other planets. In fact, it was only 70 years later, in the 70s, 80 years later, that we put somebody on the moon. So technology advances so quickly.
But yeah, even though technology is advancing, I think the general idea of like having this wild dream that other people are like, that can't happen, that still is happening all the time now. They're just in these new arenas that we can't quite conceive yet that that's possible. And I love the determination and the tenacity and the willingness to say, I actually do want to keep pushing toward this. I think it's possible. And I love the image of them coming up this hill with their airplane, carrying it over 1,000 times because they knew that it was gonna work. Just which time would it work, and what did they need to tweak? And so I love that that determination that to not quit. And so whether it's going to Mars or it's just your first flight, it still takes that willingness to say I'm gonna go for this when other people say it couldn't happen or it's not worth pursuing.
Creativity, I think, inspires other creativity. You learn from others and people build on each other's ideas. I think that God is constantly unlocking ideas in people's minds, giving them new ideas and thoughts on how to do things, new inspiration. And yeah, this is a prime example of that. They did something most people said couldn't be done. We weren't meant to fly. Now we're flying out of our own planet, flying to other planets. So,
and everything we do is standing on the shoulders of those who were willing to do it before us.
Cool. you with a really keen eye noticed that that first marker, let's see if I can get it in here, that first marker right back there said that their first flight was 120 feet. And you're thinking, how in the world is that hill way back there with the monument up on top to that first marker 120 feet? That's more like 1,000 or it's probably 2,000 feet. And you're right. So that hill is not where they took off from. That hill back there where the marker is at is actually a hill where they practice their glider flights. They practiced gliding for a couple of years, trying to perfect being able to control the airplane before they started sticking an engine on it and using propellers. So what this is marking right over here, this boulder that you see here, this is where they actually did the propelled flights from. And you see a little rail running along the ground there. This used to be sand because we're out here in the Outer Banks where everything is sand. So they had to construct something on the ground, and they made a rail on the ground to run the airplane on, so they had something solid. So they started up the propellers and hopped in the airplane, and then took off along this rail. And then the first flight was 120 feet, as you saw on the marker there. So it's from that boulder that you see right there to the first marker that you see back there. So that might help explain why it says 120 feet. It's not all the way back there to that dune. I was confused myself when I first saw that.
After me. As a junior flight ranger, I promise to help, take care of and protect the Wright Brothers Memorial and all other national parks. Very good. All right, now, what you get? That's for you. That one doesn't have a back on it because it just got my finger. That is for you. That one's for you. And this one's for you. Do you have any other badges from national parks?
Yes.
You do? Good. We'll add that to it.
I wanted to show you this cool plaque that they've got out here. What this is a picture of is the commemoration of their first flight, and it says 25 years after their first flight, 3,000 people from over 40 nations gathered here to celebrate that. And what you've got there with the white hair, that is Orville Wright, and just to his right is Amelia Earhart, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. So they were all out here 25 years after that first flight to commemorate it.
We just got done exploring the area that the Wright brothers used for their first flights, and it was really interesting to walk where they walked and try and envision ourselves there. One thing that I thought was interesting was that the actual site is currently in the town of Kill Devil Hills, and I had always learned that the Wright brothers were doing all of their testing, and that all happened in Kitty Hawk. So I asked a ranger about that, and she said that at the time the whole area was known as Kitty Hawk, but then later Kill Devil Hills came into be as a town, and so that distinction was made, and the actual location where this all happened was now within Kill Devil Hills as opposed to Kitty Hawk, which is the neighboring town. So that is my understanding of why that is. And so also then I asked her what the origin of the name Kill Devil Hills was, because that's rather unusual, and she said that there's sort of a legend that there were pirates that landed here or shipwrecked here or something to that effect, and they had rum that was supposedly so strong that it could kill the devil himself, and so they stored that in local hills or something to that effect. So there you have it. I thought there's interesting information to be found whenever you dig deep, and history is a pretty fun place to begin exploring.
And I think she also told you she had just been down in the
Yes.
Dominican Republic on a tour, and she went on a tour of a rum factory, and they were making a certain type of rum there that they called, or they said it would kill the devil. And they said, in fact, there's a place in North Carolina that's named after this because of this kill devil rum. So there definitely was a connection.
Yep. She said, "Oh, I'm familiar with that town," so pretty fun.